We are on track for £4.7 million revenue, which would be about $5 million.
How many team members do you have right now?
We have 14.
14 team members.
Yeah.
And those are split between the courses and the YouTube channel?
Yeah, so we have Content Squad and we have Money Squad.
I was on both the Content and Money Squad, but recently I left it all behind to start my own business. If we haven't met yet, my name is Saf, and for the last 2 years, I worked with Ali Abdaal. In that time, I was teaching on the part-time YouTuber Academy. I was also Ali's creative director and right-hand man as it came to design stuff, especially for the book and for the videos. Now I'm helping other people to grow on YouTube through world-class talking head educational content. That's quite a mouthful. If you follow Ali, you might have noticed that several team members have left to start their own creator-focused businesses. There's George Blackman, Jamie Whiffin, Gwilym, Tintin, Amber, and now me. While I can't speak for everyone, I can tell you why I think this keeps happening. Ali teaches people online how to find financial freedom, how to live a more intentional life, and it's wonderful. But working for him in person and being mentored by Ali is just a whole different level. It doesn't surprise me that so many people have quit to start their own creator-focused businesses, because I suspect that without that job in the first place, they might not have had the encouragement or the confidence or the skills to go and do that at all. And so in this video, I want to cover some of the experiences and lessons I've had over the last 2 years working for Ali. I want to share it with you because I don't think you'll find these lessons online. It can only come from me because I've worked with him in person. The second thing I want to cover is lessons from my first 3 months in entrepreneurship. And with that being said, let's just get into the video. Now, the first one is now, not how, and to act quickly. I'm someone who's kept a really long list of business ideas over the years. As soon as I come up with one, it goes into my Apple Notes, I write it down, I think about what the distribution might be like, or how I have an unfair advantage in space and what I might do with it, yada, yada, yada. Then it just stays there in the notes. It doesn't ever get touched. And I tell myself like, yeah, one day I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna go through all of like my notes and I'm gonna look at the tags and I'm gonna find like the best business idea for like that point in time. It's been years, it's never happened. Working with Ali, he is remarkable at having the idea and then just doing it straight away. And I remember at one point in the last 2 years, I had an idea to start something called the short form editing course. And we were sat having a dinner in Portugal and I had this idea. Ali was super excited about the idea and he's like, yeah, let's just do it and I'll help you to promote it and we can have it as part of the academy and all this stuff. He was kind of like finishing his dinner and he was kind of like, should we do the course right now? And I was like, I'll put some time in your calendar, maybe we can do it next week. And he was like, okay, but do you want to do it right now? And I was like, what the hell do you mean right now? We walk out of the restaurant, he orders an Uber. The Uber arrives, we get inside, he sets a timer for like 10 minutes and then he's like, okay, great, let's just map this whole course out. Within that 10-minute journey, we were looking at offer to the ideal customer avatar, to the lesson structure, how we were gonna delegate the work. And by the time we got out the car, we had a fully fledged plan. I had a roadmap and I knew exactly what I needed to do. It wasn't about finding the perfect idea. It was just about having a direction and doing something and just going with it. Had I been left to my own devices, I probably would have let perfectionism get in the way. And I definitely wouldn't have made as much progress as I did. And it was a really valuable lesson for me in now, not how. And that's the kind of advice you could probably get from a self-help book. But the lived experience of that is something that's like deeply etched into my mind. But since working with him, it has always blown me away whenever a new course is like ideated or a new video idea comes up or whatever the thing might be. Ali is just so willing to be like, I'm really excited about doing this, so let's just do it right now. I'm just gonna set everything up and let's go. And within minutes, he'll just do it. And I'm so grateful to Ali for that lesson. He probably doesn't even remember the experience, to be honest. It was like, oh, for him. But for me, it was like super, super valuable. So yeah, that's one of the lessons I've learned and something I'm trying to get better at, which is why I have that written on my wall behind me, because it's a reminder like, oh, if I have an idea, it's worth executing on right now, because if I try and push it away, it's just never gonna happen. The second thing I learned through the job was just how inclusive Ali was of his friends, his family, his colleagues, and to some degree, he treats them all very similarly. Whenever we're doing an event or we're doing something in person, there isn't like an inner ring, and there isn't this sense of like, oh, you're on the inside or you're on the outside. Literally, everybody is welcome and everyone has an opportunity to be like connected with and to have a great time. Not even just like in an employer setting, but like a human being setting, somebody sit down and have that level of kindness and generosity towards other people. And given his position as a very prominent YouTuber and influencer, when you're in a room where that precedent is being set, everybody else kind of like is uplifted on that same level and everyone else is like, oh yeah, let's just be, why are we gonna be exclusive? There's like no point, it's just, what does it serve? Nothing. So there are like 5 things that I kept in mind before I started the business that I've landed on. The first one is there a big and growing market for the thing? The second one is there a clear value proposition that you're offering? The third one is people. Do you have access to the right people and talent who can really help take us to the next level? I don't want to be the only person doing the thing. That's not a business, that's being a freelancer. Do I have an unfair advantage in that space? And the final one is distribution strategy. Do you have a very strong idea of how you're going to continue to get clients, especially at scale? And it's okay if like for all those 5 things, you tick some of those boxes more than for others. That's totally expected. But I find it's like a really easy framework and way of thinking about things that just really puts my mind at ease about the business. It's like, okay, fine, it doesn't have to be a perfect business idea, and it's a good business idea because I've just pre-qualified it against those 5 criteria. So for my business, I'm helping other people to grow on YouTube because I have the skills of design, video editing, animation, how to set up a studio, how to do the strategy, how to do the sales and marketing, how to have some level of camera presence, all of that kind of stuff. I've learned over the last like 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and I can definitely help people with that. So that's basically my business in a nutshell, but the 5 things, if we go through them one by one, is there a big and growing market? Yes. Like since COVID, the market for YouTube and people wanting to become YouTubers has absolutely exploded. Maybe I'm in a bubble, but I just see everybody starting YouTube channels nowadays or writing their own self-help books. It's almost become a rite of passage, and I can only see this getting more and more popular in the future, even if it doesn't look like the current form. Like content and the creator economy is just getting bigger and bigger. This is a really good space to be in. Okay, so the second one is there a clear value proposition? Yes, there is. Instead of learning how to do YouTube, why don't you just hire the same people who did it for Ali Abdaal? Just hire the same talent that already do it week in, week out for the best creators in the world and have them work for you instead. You don't need to learn a thing, just get them to do everything. That's a really clear value prop. The third one is the right people. And in the last 2 years, I've sort of expanded my network, just having the job that I have. And some of the people I worked with on Ali's team have even followed me onto my new venture. But there's also like countless people in my WhatsApp that I can speak to if I ever needed a question or if I ever needed help with hiring. And whenever I get a question that I don't know how to answer, I'm pretty sure I know somebody else who can. So I definitely have access to the right people when it comes to a YouTube business. Do I have an unfair advantage in the space? I would say I do, just having the credibility of having worked for Ali, but also I would like to think that my work speaks for itself, especially for talking head educational videos. In fact, like a fun story, somebody watched one of my clients' videos and was like, oh my God, this is an Ali Abdaal edit, like through and through, I can tell straight away. Reached out to one of Ali's editors, and the editor was like, oh, I didn't actually make this video, Saf made this video, you should speak to him. And that's how he connected to me. So yeah, there is a very distinct style, and there is a format/formula, and it seems to work. The final one is distribution strategy. And at the moment, I've had lots of referrals and people asking for my help. And to me, that was like a really strong signal that there were people out there who were willing to pay for that service. And yes, I hadn't nailed down something fancy like paid ads or having a salesperson, but that didn't really matter because word of mouth is really powerful and it's more effective. And I could already see the interest coming in. Like this wasn't a new thing to me. It's very possible to grow a business based off word of mouth alone. And worst case, I shut the business down because it doesn't do well, but like best case, I have more shots on goal. And this is gonna be the business that helps me to learn the chops to get something to the next level later on. So yeah. Lesson number 2 is this idea of an information gap versus a execution gap. When you're starting a new venture, it's entirely possible you just don't know what you need to do. And especially if you're young, like my younger brother is someone who wants to do business, but he doesn't have that much experience and he's still figuring out like how business works and what are the best practices and all that stuff. So for someone like him, it makes sense to do lots of reading around the topic, watching videos, listening to podcasts, and just like figuring out the space. But for someone like myself, who already has a very strong idea of the space and a very high resolution map, because I've probably got too many books, I spend way too much time reading about this stuff, it was abundantly clear to me that there was an execution gap, not an information gap. And I think when you're starting out, you're probably gonna have the information gap, but then at some point, if you're a perfectionist, you're gonna have the execution gap. And I sit in that camp very squarely. When I had the language to be able to describe that, and I was able to realize this, I decided to try and set up tiny experiments and like really simple systems to help me to execute more consistently. In doing so, it's helped me to realize that a lot of the reading I do is a waste of time. Like I don't need new content. I just need the same lessons and the same old content repeated to me over and over again. And for everybody, this is gonna be really different. Like there's gonna be, you probably got like a whole bunch of bookmarks and a whole bunch of like read-wise highlights of things that you're like, oh my God, that's so true. I really resonate with that. Of course, like this is the unlock for me. And you probably don't like revisit that enough. And there are like 1 or 2 articles that I really like. One is called Should-landia by Paul Millard. The idea is like, you shouldn't just listen to other people's advice blindly. It's worked for them given their circumstances and their context and their dispositions. So just take that into account when people give you advice. And ultimately, just pay attention to what you're doing already, because there are so many clues hidden in that around what you can excel in, you know, whether it's a podcast or a video, whatever you want to do. All of that to say, I now revisit the information I know I need to hear, and it's the same messages over and over. And I use that and take notes and journal on it to inspire me to take action and to ask myself, like, why am I not taking action on the thing today or tomorrow? And that's how I have been able to get to the position where I now have a business. I can't believe it. There is an article from Nathan Barry called The 5 Ladders of Wealth. And the 5 ladders are something along the lines of trading your time for money in a job, trading your time for money, but like as a freelancer where you're doing it for multiple people now. And then it's having something called a productized service where you're still kind of trading your time for money, but your service is now productized where you get like a fixed scope, fixed outputs. It's a little bit easier to scale up. Anybody could buy it from your website in theory. It doesn't require a consultation call. The 4th ladder is having a product. This is where things start to get really interesting because you detach making money from your time, and instead it's around like a product, a thing that somebody can buy and they can get value from it like immediately. Then the final ladder of wealth is building a platform, and that's something like Amazon or an app store where you just take a fee for every transaction that takes place on that platform. Obviously, with each ascending rung of wealth creation, it gets increasingly harder to do the thing. And I had put pressure on myself to go from like rung 1 to rung 3. But reading this article, it's a really good article. I highly recommend you read it. Something that was clear to me is like, you can go from 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, but you have to learn all of the lessons from the previous ladders to be able to make it onto the 4th one. You can't just skip and go straight to it because there are so many lessons learned. And imagine trying to take 4, 5, 6 years worth of lessons and knowledge and condensing that down into like 1 or 2. It's just unrealistic to expect. It's too much for most people. So I relaxed this requirement that I needed to have a product or even a productized service off the bat. And instead, I decided that I wanted to help people in a freelance capacity. And that's how I originally started my business. I helped one person on a freelance basis on the side of my full-time job. And in doing that really well, but by the way, it was terrifying to do because I was like, oh my God, I'm being paid to do this thing. Like, how the hell do I do this thing? How do I deliver? I've got no frameworks, got no systems. Like, those are the learnings that I had just from doing the freelance stuff. But like, once I was able to do that with him, do it consistently to the point where it inspired a level of confidence in me, I was able to do another client and then another client. And suddenly I've gone from trading my time for money to being a freelancer to having what looks like the start of an agency. And there are so many lessons that are being learned in that period of time. And I know one of the points I'm getting at here is that an agency business model isn't the only business I'm gonna have in my life. When you commit to a business, you're not gonna have it forever. It's entirely okay and fair to stop that business and start a new one later on. And so when I gave myself the peace of mind that, hey, I'm not gonna be stuck with this thing forever, I'm gonna learn skills along the way, I'm gonna expand my network, I'm gonna be more deeply embedded in the creator entrepreneur scene, it just made it so much more of a no-brainer to start something which wasn't my first choice to begin with. And I'm really happy that I've taken the steps I've taken and I've landed with the things I've landed with. But I couldn't have planned this out from the get-go. I really had to like confront some of these limiting beliefs and just start trying things out to see how it felt, and then slowly pulling the thread. If you've made it this far, I hope you really enjoyed this video and you took away some nugget of wisdom from some of the stuff that I've learned over the last few years. If you are interested in learning more about what I'm up to and maybe behind the scenes of the business, that's sort of the direction I want to take my channel from now on. But I would love to hear from you in the comments below, like what sort of topics you'd love me to talk about, what to touch on. The whole point of the video today was really some gratitude for like the journey I've been on over the last 2 years and the help I've received along the way. And I wanted to really honor that by sharing some of the lessons I've learned. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video and I hope to hear from you soon.